The low, ominous sloshing of water under thin vinyl, mixed with the high-pitched whine of a vacuum cleaner turned hair clipper. That was the soundtrack of the 1980s American dream. Families chasing that luxurious future, one gadget and garish decor choice at a time. They filled their homes with items that promised Jetsons-level convenience and elegance, but delivered daily comedy and minor disasters. This was the era of aggressively impractical consumerism, where nostalgia now hits us with a wave of comforting cringe. You're tuning in to American Retro Vault, your ultimate time machine for the purest dose of American nostalgia. Today, we're diving headfirst into the whimsical, highly optimistic, yet hilariously flawed world of 1980s home life. Those trends that blinded a generation with visions of luxury while creating sensory overload and endless inconvenience. Number 1. The Sweaty Museum. Plastic sofa covers. Let's start right where we left off. The living room, pure 1980s style. Back then, furniture was seen as a serious investment, something you dropped real money on and expected to last forever. To protect these bulky monsters, upholstered in velvet or loud, garish floral patterns for important guests, who, let's be honest, almost never actually showed up, moms all across America went nuclear and wrapped the entire pieces in thick, industrial-grade vinyl. Sitting in the living room back then wasn't relaxing at all. It was a full-blown tactile nightmare. Every little movement made the plastic crinkle and squeak so loudly it could drown out the TV. That vinyl covering delivered a brutally harsh experience, ice-cold and unforgiving in the dead of winter, and instantly turning into a slippery, sweat-drenched slip and slide on those blistering summer days. You weren't really sitting on the sofa, you were temporarily vacuum sealed to it. Number 2. A 725-kilogram electric delay bomb waterbed. By the late 80s, millions of Americans had turned their backs on ordinary mattresses, driving waterbeds to a whopping 20% of all mattress sales. Countless families willingly wrestled gigantic rubber bladders filled with 1,600 pounds of water up narrow staircases and into second-floor bedrooms. But the hidden drama was intense. The ice-cold water sucked body heat away like a vampire. To keep from freezing to death, owners had no choice but to plug a massive, high-wattage electric heating pad right underneath that colossal liquid sack, accidentally turning the entire bed into a genuine electric time bomb. This gave landlords absolute nightmares. All it took was one stray cat claw or one overly enthusiastic leap, and the mattress could burst open, unleashing a catastrophic indoor tidal wave that collapsed the ceiling and dumped a waterfall straight down into the living room below. Number 3. The Clapper's Artificial Automation, 1985. We've all clung to that burning dream of living in a perfectly automated future, where every convenience looked exactly like the sleek, futuristic world of the Jetsons. In answer to that craving, a gadget called the Clapper arrived with the promise of a total home revolution. Its catchy slogan, "Clap on, clap off," made everyone believe that sophisticated, hands-free luxury was finally within reach. Reality, however, hit hard. Users quickly discovered that the so-called sound-activated system was actually a chaotic, wildly unpredictable beast. The thing was hypersensitive and would freak out at any sharp noise or sudden sound. All it took was the family dog barking at the mailman, a heavy textbook slipping from your hands and slamming onto the floor, or even one violent sneeze from seasonal allergies, and the whole system would trigger. In the blink of an eye, your peaceful living room turned into an involuntary dance floor, with every lamp flashing and strobing like crazy. You'd end up eating dinner while the lights went berserk around you, feeling like you were trapped inside a haunted disco. Number 4. asbestos stalactites, textured asbestos ceiling. Even if you somehow survived the design disasters in a living room and bedroom, you still had to contend with the nightmare hovering directly overhead: the ceiling. In the 1980s, contractors were absolutely obsessed with popcorn ceilings, that cheap, sprayed-on, textured nightmare that looked like someone had blasted cottage cheese across the drywall to hide every imperfection. But this architectural skin condition had a terrifying dark side. Its bumpy, porous surface turned it into a massive magnet for dust, greasy cigarette smoke, and years of household grime, slowly transforming it into that unmistakable nicotine-stained yellow. And if you so much as bumped it with a toy or grazed it with a broom handle, the whole thing would rain down a blizzard of white dandruff across the entire house. The worst part? Years later, new homeowners would be horrified to discover that those jagged little stalactites were often packed full of deadly asbestos, turning the ceiling above your family dinner table into a silent, accidental killer just waiting to happen. Number 5. The tactile nightmare: vertical curtains. To cover those sliding glass balcony doors, we installed the ultimate weapon of auditory assault: vertical PVC blinds. Those stiff plastic slats, white or pale beige, were hung up as the cheap, modern solution of the era. They promised privacy and effective sun and rain blocking, but the reality was the complete opposite. They never, not once, slid smoothly. Every time you tried to pull them, you had to throw your whole body into it, yanking and shaking while gritting your teeth against the dry, screeching racket that sounded like a warning from hell. They were constantly getting jammed halfway down the track, twisted into chaotic knots, or skewed completely to one side. And when a strong summer breeze blew in from the balcony, the whole set would suddenly spring to life in the most savage way imaginable. The plastic panels would slam into each other like crazy, creating an aggressive, ear-piercing clatter that sounded exactly like a pile of dry bones tumbling down the stairs in the dead of night. That noise didn't just startle everyone inside the house, it made the neighbors wince in pure annoyance too. Honestly, pretty much every home had a set where one plastic clip had broken off long ago. That missing clip could have fallen years earlier, but nobody ever bothered to replace it. That gaping, dangling gap with a few stray strings hanging down just sat there for an entire decade, like a permanent monument to 1980s frustration. Before we get to the most shocking and downright demonic memory on this list, a toy that probably wrecked your sleep for years, let's pause for a second and hit that subscribe button. It helps keep our time machine running so we can keep sharing these wild retro treasures with you. Number 6. Teddy Ruxpin, 1985. The Haunted Bear. Now, let's shift into the world of toys, a realm that seemed so innocent, yet harbored some truly unforgettable nightmares. In 1985, brilliant Disney engineer Ken Forsey brought the world a groundbreaking toy called Teddy Ruxpin. It was an adorable plush bear with a cassette tape deck cleverly tucked into its back. When the AA batteries were still fresh and full of life, the servo motors creaking across its fuzzy face were already enough to make plenty of kids shudder. The bear's jaw would chomp along in perfect sync with the story, giving it an expression that was both quirky and downright eerie, as if the teddy had actually come alive to tell you bedtime tales. But when the batteries inevitably started dying after just a few hours of play, everything turned into a full-blown nightmare. The cassette tape would slow to a crawl, stretching and warping the audio in grotesque, unnatural ways. Teddy's once warm, friendly voice would gradually sink into slow, deep, demonic growls that sounded like they were rumbling straight from the throat of the devil himself. His mechanical eyes would blink out of sync, flashing erratically in the darkness of the bedroom while staring straight into your soul. It was no longer a toy meant to lull children to sleep. Number 7. Petri dish in the bathroom. Fluffy toilet mat. Let's take a stroll into the bathroom, the room universally acknowledged as the least sanitary spot in the entire house. In a hilariously misguided effort to make that damp, grimy space feel more cozy and inviting, we'd flip through every page of the Sears catalog, desperately hoping for a miracle fix. And then the solution appeared. Those thick, shaggy, pastel-colored toilet seat covers. At first glance, they looked soft and adorable. In reality, they were a giant petri dish, the perfect breeding ground for bacteria to multiply like crazy. That dense carpet of fur trapped every drop of moisture from the humid bathroom air, from condensation, from every splash, while deeply absorbing and permanently locking in every foul human odor imaginable: urine, feces, and that stubborn, ever-present mildew stench. They didn't just soak it up, they held onto it forever, turning the toilet lid into a genuine germ factory. Even worse, the thick, fluffy layer made the already heavy lid dangerously unstable. Right in the middle of you peacefully handling your business, gravity would suddenly seize control. That damp, furry monstrosity would slam shut without warning, smashing straight into your spine like a surprise ambush, and jolting you upright in sheer terror and blinding pain. Number 8. Haircutting with a Flowbee vacuum cleaner, 1987. Long before DIY haircut tutorials flooded YouTube, we let those aggressive, endlessly repeating late-night TV infomercials bully our parents into playing amateur barber at home. Invented in the 1980s by a carpenter named Rick Huntz, the Flowbee promised salon-perfect haircuts simply by snapping a set of razor-sharp blades onto your ordinary household vacuum cleaner hose. With its deceptively simple but revolutionary design, it turned your everyday vacuum into a high-tech haircutting machine, guaranteeing even professional results without ever stepping foot in a barbershop. Just to save a measly $10 on a real haircut, parents subjected their own children to absolute horror. They'd jam the roaring industrial vacuum, screaming like a jet engine, right up against your ear, creating a deafening racket that made your skull vibrate. Meanwhile, the long plastic hose would frantically suck up clumps of hair while the hidden blades whirred and chopped like crazy, making you feel like you were being tortured by some deranged mechanical monster. The stench of burning dust mixed with singed hair would fill the entire room, leaving every kid gritting their teeth in pure anxiety and panic. The result? An entire generation of children stepped outside, sporting lopsided, choppy, uneven, bowl-cut disasters that carried that unmistakable burnt dust aroma wherever they went. Many of us carried the childhood trauma for years, all thanks to this so-called money-saving miracle. Number 9. Miami Vice glass brick wall and polished brass. Even when it came to aesthetics, we were obsessed with chasing that over-the-top, glittering luxury, fueled hard by the era's biggest soap operas like Dynasty and shows like Miami Vice. Under that influence, perfectly ordinary suburban houses in the Midwest suddenly sprouted thick, wavy glass block walls, desperately trying to look sleek, modern, and impossibly upscale. We craved the hypnotic, artistic dazzle of bright neon lighting, hoping it would turn our living spaces into something classy and sparkling. Instead, the second a family member stepped into the shower behind those elegant blocks, they appeared as nothing more than a horrifying, slimy blob floating around in a giant fish tank, turning what should have been a private moment into the world's most awkward and unsettling spectacle. And to match those fancy glass walls came the full set of gleaming brass accessories. Doorknobs, hinges, chandeliers, everything was coated in cheap, shiny brass plating to scream luxury. But the moment human hand oil touched it, that clear, protective layer instantly smudged and streaked, destroying the look in record time. Within just a few short months, those once glamorous knobs had transformed into ugly, corroded blobs of brown-green rust. They demanded hours of scrubbing with eye-watering, foul-smelling polishing chemicals just to make them look halfway decent again. Number 10. The hypnosis from infomercial, Jinsu knife, and Bedizzler stone setting machine. The 1980s gave birth to 24-hour cable TV, which basically meant those late-night infomercials took us hostage. We bought millions of Ginsu knives, made right there in Ohio, not Japan, just because some loud guy on TV used one to saw through a tin can and a garden hose. We wanted to feel like we were at the cutting edge of modern culinary science, even if we were just aggressively slicing a tomato into paper-thin wafers. And if you weren't busy sawing through cans, you were destroying your clothes with the Bedazzler. It promised high fashion, but delivered craft disasters. One slip of the hand and the rhinestone would go crooked. Run it through the washing machine once, and those cheap gems would pop off, leaving jagged metal prongs permanently embedded in your denim jacket, ready to claw up anyone brave enough to hug you. Living in the 80s was complete sensory overload. If you weren't going deaf from the constant creaking and squeaking of that plastic-wrapped sofa, you were listening to the furious clacking of vertical blinds, running for cover from the grinding death rattle of a dying toy, or screaming at a lamp to turn itself back on. But you know what? We survived it. It wasn't perfect, and it sure as hell wasn't safe, but it forged who we are. We didn't grow up in a hyper-vigilant, bubble-wrapped world. We lived in an era of real freedom, independence, and zero fear. We didn't care if something made total sense. We just wanted a piece of that shiny, plastic-wrapped, gloriously noisy future. Now it's your turn. Drop your childhood survival stories in the comments below. Did your family ever have a catastrophic waterbed disaster? Did you ever rock a Flowbee haircut that left permanent psychological scars? I want to hear it all, and I'm reading every single comment. These wild, real memories are the true heartbeat of American nostalgia. Smash that like button, subscribe to American Retro Vault, and until next time, keep those memories alive.